Nobody in the USA has forgotten the 2016 election. We all know of the factors that made it an election like no other. The possible Russia collusion, emails, James Comey, the Access Hollywood tape, and general media bias. These elements all contributed to the end results of the election, but the factor that affected the election the most was the very system we have in place, the Electoral College. In the United States of America, we have two different voting systems in presidential elections, the popular vote and the Electoral College. The popular vote measures how many people in the country in total voted for that candidate, but unfortunately, it isn't taken into account when figuring out the victor. The Electoral College is what decides the next president, but it's a much more complicated system.
Well, basically, the Electoral College is a system by which each state is given a number of electoral votes according to its size, according to its population. Not its overall landmass size, but the number of people who live there. So each state gets a certain number of electoral votes. That state is actually allowed to award those votes however it chooses to. But most states, almost every state in fact, decide to give all of their votes to the winner of their state.
There was a meeting of some experts in voting a few years ago in Belgium. 22 people got together and they made a list of all the ways they could think of voting for presidents of the democracy. Among those methods were not included anything like the Electoral College.
This system seems unnecessarily complicated and strange, and it is, so why was it created? There were a few reasons the Founding Fathers decided on this system, but one of them was that the Founding Fathers didn't trust the general population to elect a president, and they wanted to put it up to a group of qualified electors.
The country was vast, sparsely populated, rural, poor transportation and communication. So how could we ask people in West Virginia to vote for president? They'd have no idea who to support.
No system is perfect, but many people agree that there are too many flaws within the Electoral College to be used as our system of choice. First of all, it allows the loser of the popular vote to become president, and we may have a president who the majority of the country does not want in office. As well, the amount of votes each state has is not balanced in their population, so voters in places like Montana and Wyoming have much more power than they deserve. For example, in Wyoming, a person is worth 3 votes compared to a person in California who is worth 1. So many southern, smaller, more rural states have an advantage.
So it matters who you are when you cast your vote. There are some people whose votes count more than others. That seems to violate an essential principle in my view.
However, being in a state like California or Texas can also be an advantage.
Even though people think of the Electoral College as giving an advantage to small states, in some sense, it gives an advantage to people who live in large states. And one way you can see that is if you imagine that California grew and it became 51% of the population. Then nobody else's vote would matter at all, because California would run the whole Electoral College.
Overall, if you're a smaller state, your vote is worth more, but if you live in a larger state, you have more potential power. Several states have unfair advantages, and this can alter elections greatly.
Certainly, the fact that we only have a presidential campaign in a quarter of the country is a flaw. If you're a voter in California or New York or Texas or Utah, you know exactly who's going to win your state when the election starts, and you don't have much of an incentive to go out and vote.
Overall, the Electoral College allows the loser of the popular vote to become president, favors the smaller, redder, more rural states, favors larger states in a different way, only makes candidates campaign in part of the country, violates the principle of one person, one vote, and discourages voter turnout. So how did these flaws affect the memorable election of 2016, and what other factors contributed to the result?
So of course Democrats right now would like to do a national popular vote because it means they would have won the 2000 presidential election when Al Gore ran, and they would have won the 2016 election when Hillary Clinton ran.
And the election of 2016 is still affecting us today. Donald Trump lost the popular vote by a huge margin, meaning that his supporters are a minority of America, and this is even more true now considering that his approval rate as of November 2017 is usually around 35%. This isn't the first time the president has lost the popular vote either. In the past, 4 other presidents have been elected without winning the popular vote: John Quincy Adams, Rutherford B. Hayes, Benjamin Harrison, George W. Bush, and now this list includes Donald Trump. This means that about 11% of the time, the president will lose the popular vote. This amount is definitely too high. If you had 10 American presidents in one room, one of them wouldn't have been elected by the people. This is obviously an issue for our democracy. The very idea of democracy is that people decide who they want to lead them, and we can't have a proper democracy without that element.
One day it may not be such a partisan issue. One day it may be that people decide that the system that was created was just from a certain era and they want to change it. I don't think it's also the case where the Electoral College is always going to favor Republicans or it's always going to favor Democrats. And so maybe if somebody brings this up at a different point in our history, it'll have a little bit better chance of passing.
While it may not be realistic to remove the Electoral College because the country would need a constitutional amendment, this is an issue for our country and it deserves to be recognized. If you're a voting American citizen, make sure to make your voice heard. And maybe we can make a difference for our democracy and our country for future generations.
Alex, I said no phones in class. If I see that phone again, I will take it. Okay?
So boring. These stupid ads. That is such a pretty dress. I wonder how much. Yikes. Never mind.
She's so pretty. I wish I was that thin.
I bet you wish you were that thin. You'll have to lose half your weight, though.
Alex Gilp, I told you, no phones in class. Hand over the phone.
Fine. Bye.
Alex! But you could be that thin.
What do you mean?
Have you ever tried purging? It's a great way to lose weight.
Don't you listen to her. She's as bad as the devil.
I don't even know what purging is.
It's really dangerous. You could get really sick or even die.
I mean, come on. No one's gonna love you for like who you are and what you look like.
Don't listen to that. You're perfect just the way you are.
She's just saying that because she's a goody two-shoes.
No, I'm not. Hurt my feelings.
But no one wants a friend to be goody two-shoes. So don't listen to her. Just do it. Barf it all out.
Jerk.
Win.
Devil.
Yeah, I am.
I think I'm old enough to make my own decisions.
No, wait.
These are so gross and tasteless. But I have to eat them to be beautiful.
Here goes nothing.
These are so nasty. I feel awful.
Are you okay?
Who are you?
Oh, my name's Sophia.
Well, for your information, I was just sick yesterday, okay? So I'm perfectly fine, and it is none of your business to begin with.
Jeez, calm down, okay? I just wanted to make sure you're okay.
Well, I'm fine.
Are you sure?
Yes,
Are you really sure?
truly.
Because it kind of sounded like you were purging.
I wasn't.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Because if you were, you might not want to do it again. I've been through the same thing that you're going through. Okay, you start, and it's like it never end just because one person judged you. But the opinion of that one person doesn't matter. I mean, it only matters what you feel inside of you. You have to believe that you are perfect just the way you are. It doesn't matter if people think that you have to purge or you have to lose weight, because that's just their opinion. Some people, they're just flat out dumb.
That was the cheesiest thing I've ever heard. But I admit, you do have a point.
Friends?
Beauty plus power equals respect. An equation most complex. When you have neither of the addends, how do you win in the end? Power in itself is subjective. Information is power. Money is power. Resources and heirs are power. Skin is power. What kind of power do I need? Beauty in itself is complicated. Beauty is love. Beauty is life. Beauty is to learn and to teach. Beauty is skin. What kind of beauty do I need? I'm in a difficult situation. Respect is the ultimate goal. Respect makes you someone in a world where being yourself isn't exactly the status quo. We're taught that respect is something you earn. But if I've been left with nothing, how do I get what I desire? I earn it? What if the idea that you earn respect through work is a lie? You need beauty to have power. Power to be seen as beautiful. Beauty and power to have respect. Well, I've been working all day long. I still haven't reached the finish line. I'm waiting on my prize, but I'm still not beautiful. I don't have any power. I told you it was a lie. I've been walking around in circles, but this is the very last time. I can no longer lose time if time is not on my side. Show me the secrets. I'll do anything. I will no longer live to please another man. I want to be pleased. Show me the real truth. The truth has been in front of you the whole time. The truth is in the compromise. Of what? Beauty is said to be found in every shade. But for those in a faraway place, beauty has only one name. Beauty is formulated, tested, manufactured, and placed on the shelves for all to see. Shake in its glory. Revere in its majesty. Beauty is in the bleach.
Research shows that Nigeria's attraction to lighter complexion is a psychological injury from British colonization, where in that time period, people with lighter skin tones had a higher social class and better job opportunities than their darker skinned counterparts. We decided to talk to our classmate who is from Jamaica and Nigeria and has family currently living in Nigeria.
Always go in the past that black people or dark skin was not treated fair as people with lighter skin. So they think that if you have light skin, you're more powerful to do.
Centuries of Nigerians feeling inferior to the British led them to believe that their skin color was a flaw and something that needed to be fixed. Skin bleaching was their compromise to all the emotional conflict that came after colonization. They believed that if they were not able to be successful as themselves, they could lighten their skin to almost be perceived as more white or light skin.
They would usually buy or make this type of cream that they would use on their skin to make themselves lighter.
Bleaching is the process of lightening any material by using chemicals. On skin, it lessens the concentration of melanin, the natural chemical which gives skin its pigmentation. It is documented that 77% of women in Nigeria bleach their skin, in the world's highest percentages comparing to 59% in Togo. Men also participate in skin bleaching, but women are the main consumers of the products.
They usually have have different colors and different parts of their body. It can cause a lot of health problems.
Many bleaching creams have toxic ingredients such as mercury to stop melanin production, the natural chemical found in your body which gives you your pigmentation. These toxic ingredients can cause kidney and liver damage, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, and thyroid disorders. 83% of women in Nigeria who bleach their skin are aware of the harmful effects but still continue the practice. The past colonization of Nigeria by the British created conflict for future generations by creating unrealistic beauty ideals, resulting in Nigerians participating in the compromise of skin bleaching so that they can be seen as more valuable. Colonization has left many who were not even alive during the time period scarred emotionally, mentally, and physically. In these countries, being what you are not has become the norm, and it's about time this problem has been brought to the attention of people worldwide, in order to put a stop to this genocide of dark skin. So please ask yourself, is it worth all these irreversible diseases just to be seen as beautiful? Can beauty be found in a bottle, or is it inside of you, through your personality and character traits that make you, you?
This is my story. You really can get help.
In 2018, 2 million people in jail, hundreds executed. Our criminal justice system has never been bigger. Unfortunately, this presents to many different difficulties. A larger judiciary system requires more cost support and spending, which leads to unwanted prejudice based on racial and socioeconomic biases.
Race and class biases are very present in the justice system.
The Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution guarantees both a speedy and fair trial, but is this happening now? We talked to experts on the subject and distilled their perspective on the American legal landscape. This is Abby Smith.
I'm a professor of law at Georgetown University. I'm also the director of the Criminal Defense and Prisoner Advocacy Clinic and the co-director of the E. Barrett Prettyman Fellowship Program.
And Mark Maurer.
I'm the executive director of the Sentencing Project. We're a national nonprofit organization based in Washington. We do research and policy advocacy around criminal justice issues.
Finally, Douglas Gansler.
After that, I was a federal prosecutor, so I was an assistant United States attorney for 6 years.
These experts all agree that the criminal system is highly flawed, and there are a number of reasons for this. Number 1, rushed trials, particularly on death row.
I think before you execute a human being, it ought to take some time. We ought to be very deliberative.
When you're taking somebody's life, the judge should spend time reviewing that file, looking at everything, looking at all the evidence, applying the evidence to the law. And I think for death penalty cases, you would have to have no doubt.
Well, we know that there's been tremendous rate of error in death penalty cases. Well over 100 people have been found taken off death row as a result of DNA evidence, which has led to their acquittals in the cases. I think in far too many cases, the sentencing process is very quick and not very in-depth. So without the judge being able to get a sense of who this person is, what were the factors that contributed to their crime, too often people are just sentenced based on the crime itself without any inquiry into the circumstances of the crime and whether prison or community supervision would be a better outcome.
These rushed cases have also led to reason 2, an overwhelming amount of incarcerated citizens.
The United States is the leader in the whole world when it comes to putting people behind bars, and that needs to stop. That's not something to be proud of, in my opinion, and we've kind of gotten carried away with that in this country in a kind of misguided attempt to control crime. We've allowed the criminal justice system to become the kind of social services program of first resort instead of dealing with some of the underlying social problems.
I think we lock up too many people in prison. We keep them there for too long. Prison should be designed for people for whom there's an imminent threat to public safety if they were in the community. And the problem now is that we have far too many people in prison who do not present a serious threat to public safety.
And finally, number 3, the elephant in the room, the bias in which many of these people are subjected to during trial.
Bias is pervasive in the criminal justice system. It's pervasive in the capital murder context, and it's pervasive throughout, from minor offenses to ordinary felony offenses. In particular, the system is fraught with racial bias. But my chief concern is that there are too many people on death row who haven't been well represented, who haven't had their rights fully protected. Is it ethical to value, the life of somebody who's successful more than somebody who's poor and disadvantaged?
And this begs the question, are all of these things constitutional? The Sixth Amendment guarantees a fair and speedy trial, but by rushing through sentencings and improperly conducting these legal proceedings, have we compromised the integrity of our criminal justice system?
We've gotten used to thinking as punishment as the main response to these problems. We've gotten used to having 2 million Americans behind bars, and that won't change overnight. That is something of a cultural shift and educational shift that we need to undertake.
I worry that we tell the stories too often of victimization, of kind of bad crimes where people are hurt, and we don't do a very good job of telling the stories about people who end up in the criminal justice system, people who make mistakes, because they run the gamut. Everybody makes mistakes.
Fortunately, not everything is going downhill.
We're at a moment after nearly 4 decades of rising incarceration when there's growing bipartisan support for criminal justice reform.
And so my view would be we ought to focus on those very same issues of ethnic bias, socioeconomic bias, in the rest of the system and try to address it throughout the criminal justice system.
Does there need to be a more profound rethinking? Yes, there does. I'm not sure I have, the kind of cure for it. I think it's important to have more conversations about it. I wish more politicians would talk about it, more commentators would talk about it, because there was a time in the 19th century when the United States was a model for criminal justice, when commentators and scholars from other countries came here to take a look at our criminal justice system, our adversary.
Through new legislative and cultural reforms, we can restore our citizens' Sixth Amendment rights. We can fix the damage done to our criminal justice system. We can make an impact on the lives of not only the 2 million incarcerated citizens, but all of us as well.
My time of life. This life is a gift in life. Sometimes you have to accept what happens. Wake up and embrace what you feel. Life is an obstacle to face in life. Life is full of heartbreaks. Take it head on and never say never. Just love and never hate. Life is a relationship with people. Ship it, keep it, it starts with power.
This life is a precious photo. Accept it, show it. It starts with a new camera. Wake up and use it. Life is all mixed up. Take it head on.
Just be yourself. Do not be someone else. Never give up. Work hard.
Life is an adventure, sometimes not a good one, but most of the time it's an amazing one. Most of the time, life has drama, fake friends, and lots of things like that. But always there's that one special thing in your life that you will never forget. Life is also like a roller coaster. There are lots of times you go up and you're cheerful, happy, and having the best time of your life. But there are lots of times when you go down, when you feel upset, down, and depressed. But all I know is to be happy and live life to the fullest.
Live it up.
Life is grateful. Trust it, believe it. It starts with the sunrise. You wake up and you don't see it. Life is a piece of cake. Take a head on it and agree with it. Full of greatness, respect. Life is extreme. Make it and survive it.